Karl-Walter Lindenlaub from Halo, Ashley Connor from Night Sky, Phil Lanyon from Star Trek Discovery, Tobie Robitaille from Under the Banner of Heaven, Brendan McGinty from Welcome to Earth, and David Robert Jones from The Wonder Years, all incredible cinematographers. Thank you so much for doing this. I want to start here, just like, when did you all decide that you wanted to be a cinematographer? When did you realize this was something that you could actually do? Karl-Walter, I'm going to start with you and we'll just go around.
Originally, I wanted to become a journalist and then found out that there's a film school in Munich. In those days in Germany, film school was sort of a thing for freaks. There were 2 schools in Germany, and in the whole film business, people didn't really believe you could study something like filmmaking in the university environment. So I did apply and I got into the documentary program, which was closest to journalism. And I was very young. We all had to direct. I ended up connecting with the feature directors and doing a lot of films with them together, starting to shoot for them. And then I had to direct my graduation film, which was a 50-minute drama. And I was so scared and so nervous. I was 23 when I finished, and I thought, I'm too young to become a director. I'm going to start as a cinematographer. It just came naturally to me. I already had shot a lot of student films, and it was the better way to get started. And somehow I got stuck there.
Like, imagine a film school was for freaks and not journalism. What a time it must have been for you. No, Ashley, how about yourself?
Endless discovery, yes. And self-learning. Yes.
Yeah, I grew up loving films. I'm from the Valley, and surrounded by film people. And I think when I went to film school, I just the assumption was that I would have wanted to direct, but I very quickly realized I communicate with an inanimate object potentially better than humans, and I like the control aspect. And at film school, I sort of vacillated between studying cinematography and doing kind of traditional storytelling, but my heavier focus was experimental film. So I really learned to play on film and how to do in-camera effects, and I think that has greatly influenced my cinematography and my approach to the image. But yeah, I think I just grew up loving movies.
Yeah.
And why not try to work in them if you can?
What was like the first movie you were like, oh, I love this, or this is like something that really had an effect?
I think my dad would tell me not to say, but he let me watch A Clockwork Orange pretty young. And and then 2001, and he sort of showed me a few kind of bigger brained movies that kind of blew my mind in my early teens. And I think it was sort of those films, I had seen, easier American movies. But those were the films that really kind of engaged my brain in a more photographic sense and really like brought me into a more artier space of filmmaking.
Yeah, good choices. That's not bad. Philip, how about yourself? What was it? What about you? What made you want to become a cinematographer here?
I mean, I think originally my father was a photographer and always had cameras around the house. He went through photography school and ended up getting hired on the fire department, taking photos of arson scenes. So we always had these kind of cameras and his pictures around the house. And then I went to school and didn't want to be a firefighter. But I wanted to be an actor. And so I pursued that as far as I could, and then realized that I also needed to be a filmmaker to be an actor. And so I ended up getting into making films, and that's when I kind of got opened up to this world of cinematography, where you could kind of act through the camera in some ways and bring life to a story that way. And so that meld was perfect for me.
Nice. That's awesome. Tobie, how about yourself?
Well, as a teenager, high school, I was going to this high school, we were doing arts a lot, like playing music, plays, theater. And there was this dark room my dad gave me at some point, like my parents gave me a Nikon FN2 35mm camera, and I just like started playing with it. And I hated being or trying to be an actor when we were doing play at school. So I said, like, can I just step back a bit and maybe do something else like the lighting? Or so I did. I liked that very much. And at some point I told my parents, you know what, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do lighting for plays and theater. And I remember, this is funny because I still remember that my dad said, like, I mean, you like taking pictures, you like lighting things, you know, so why don't you think about doing films? And I was like, yeah, you know, I never thought about that, and that was it. So then college, film school, and I started doing documentaries. I did documentaries for like more than 10 years, and yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Brendan, how about you?
I grew up, both of my parents are stills photographers, and I grew up, we sort of traveled the world. I didn't really have a fixed home for years and years. I grew up in sort of Angola and the Congo and Afghanistan and all these quite, you know, always surrounded by cameras and photography and the world. Later on, I started, at university, I studied film, but it was in a very academic way, very impractical. And by then I was shooting loads of stills. So I had lots of technical facility because my parents put me to work at a very young age, like printing contact sheets for them and stuff. But I didn't really realize that there was someone who was a cinematographer. You know, it was all about the director. And I imagined a director sort of did everything. And it was quite a revelation to me when I began to work on, say, short films and music videos. And then I didn't even know the role existed. And I suddenly realized that there was the cameras, the lenses, the film stocks, all these things that I knew a lot about and that I loved, that this role was one I was like perfectly fitted to. But it was kind of accidental. I didn't even know the role existed until I saw it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And David, how about yourself?
Yeah, I kind of feel like I didn't know it existed either. I was out of college. I was pre-med, and I was applying to med school, and then I was living in Chicago, and I was like, God, this is not right. Like I was working in a laboratory, and I was like, this is not the right fit. And then my aunt one day, who had been kind of talking about things with, about what am I going to do with my life, kind of conversations a lot. She's like, there's a film school here, and I, like all of you, loved movies when I was a kid, and that's kind of like was my focus. And I, my parents loved movies, and so that was sort of something where I could connect a passion to a job, but it didn't occur to me like it was a possibility. Like growing up in the Midwest and in a family that wasn't connected at all, it didn't occur to me that, oh yeah, right. And all of a sudden it occurred to me like, oh right, there might be a job I could have that's related to that. And then I got into film school and immediately I was fired up because after college you're like, oh my God, I need a job, I need to do this and that. But I was fired up, so I said, like, this is it. I was like, I love this, and I was shooting everybody's project, and I was so into it, and so kind of immediately was tractor beams for filmmaking and cinematography specifically. Yeah.
That's awesome. And we do have to wrap up here quickly, but I want to just ask one more thing. Like all of you guys all these projects, like you said, are very different, but they're all, I just find incredibly visually appealing, and the stuff you're doing, and these are incredible. What gets you excited to, when you get to set like that, you're just like, oh, I can't believe I get to do this kind of thing. Like, what is it like about on a daily basis on these jobs that you are just like thrilled to do? Because I feel like the passion is in the work. So I'm assuming this is an accurate representation of what you guys are experiencing. But Karl-Walter, I'll start with you, and we could go back around.
Well, it's very enjoyable for me when I get to work on a project where you do some world building, where you actually have to create things that don't exist. That's always exciting. Or travel to the past and recreate something that's not there anymore. And then it's that human experience. You have a group of people that tries to accomplish something that can only be done together. And it's incredibly challenging. And very often it's in an international place where people come from everywhere together, and that ability to make something bigger than yourself, hopefully for other people to enjoy and take something with them. That's an enormous privilege. I always say nobody gets to play with these big toys and so much money without a sure outcome. It's always a huge gamble. Who does that?
Yeah, it's true. Ashley, how about you?
I just think as cinematographers, we get to work on so many different kinds of stories. We get to tell so many different kinds of stories. We get to meet so many amazing people, work with so many incredible crews. And to me, I think that's when I pinch myself, is just the lifestyle and the experience. It's like I just flew it back from a film festival in Krakow and immediately started a new TV show. And, sometimes, you just kind of have to count your blessings and realize like it's a fun life and a fully lived life. And I think that that's what's so exciting about the work we do. We change modes quickly.
Yeah. Philip, how about you?
I don't know if I have those moments on set. They're usually more like, what are we going to do? They're a little more frantic, but I think I love the dissection of a story, reading a story for the first time and connecting with it. And then all of us, hundreds of people dissect this thing into tiny little pieces. And then we put it all back together, and then you watch it at the end of the day. And that's my favorite moment, when you reconnect with the story and you go, wow, we all did that.
That's pretty cool. Tobie?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. It's it starts with the script. It starts with a good story, and then it's how you react to it and how you want to tell that story and put it in image. And it's, to me, it's really like it's basic. It's how it's we're so lucky to be able to do this job. It's an amazing job, as you said, Carl. It's, who does that? And being able to read good scripts and just go for it. And
Brendan, how about yourself?
I would echo the sentiments of, it's the people who want to work. I think for me, with my line of work, it's some of the locations I've been taken to are just extraordinary. I'm going to some of the most pristine places in the world to film. But I think there's always this moment, which I think maybe we all share, which is you're looking through the viewfinder, and it's that moment where you first turn over, where it really feels quite magical. You're the sort of first person experiencing this moment with an actor, with a member of the public, depending on your discipline. But it's that moment where there's been all this orchestration and planning and travel, and and then finally, just through your viewfinder on whatever lens you're on, you're watching the thing happen. That always feels incredibly magical to me. Particularly it's normally the first time you turn over where it's really working, that you feel some sort of magic at that.
Yeah. And David, last but not least.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say too much different, except that I think that initial reading of the script with the director, and you were like, ooh, what about this? What about this? What about this idea? Like in the banter back and forth, it's so exciting. And then there's like the period in between, and you have all these ideas, and then you show up on set and you're like, I feel like the day one on set sometimes is like, I don't know if any of this works, but I don't know what if any of this will work. And then you do it and you get in the motion, and you're just, blood, sweat, and tears there. And then you get something, you get a take in the can, and you're like, oh, wow. And when you have that moment of like, wow, that was great. That really worked. Like, there's nothing more satisfying than witnessing that, all these people from all walks of life have made this one cohesive image or scene, and it's really cool.
Yeah, it's great to hear, and all of your work is so great. Just one last time, Karl-Walter Lindenlaub, cinematographer for Halo, Ashley Connor, cinematographer on Night Sky, Philip Lanyon, cinematographer for Star Trek Discovery, Tobie Robitaille, cinematographer for Under the Banner of Heaven, Brendan McGinty, cinematographer for Welcome to Earth, and David Robert Jones, cinematographer for The Wonder Years. All great shows. Thank you all so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Right.
you.
Thanks.